What up, y'all? Welcome to the latest episode of Giggles, Irene Radio. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Audio Mac, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search Giggles, Irene Radio. Today's special guest is from the IE. He's been on the move for a while now. He's recently dropped a new EP titled Love Really Is, and we'll be discussing that in a minute. And welcome special guest Cam Gnarly.
What up, what up, what up?
How are you?
I'm doing well. What's up, Giggles?
You know, same shit, different day.
Yeah, I'm blessed we're here.
Right?
You know?
The grind.
Glad we made it here safely. Yeah, the grind does not stop. Even in COVID, it did not stop.
Right? Yeah. We're gonna be discussing that later. Like, Cam is so on his shit that he's like jumping ahead into the interview.
I don't even, I know. I'm already like, I gotta, we gotta do it.
Yeah. I'm weak. But it's really nice to finally have you in studio. I feel like it's been a long time coming.
Thank you. Honestly, we've been, you've been showing support for the longest.
Yeah.
I remember when you put up at the Currency Show back in 2018, and we've been cool ever since then.
Back when I was on my photography shit.
Yeah, I still got that. I still be using some of them. I still use some of them pics.
I did. Like, a shout out to Kev though, because for real, like, I literally hit him and it was like, yo, I'm trying to practice my show photography. Like, can I pull up? And he was just like, hell yeah. And yeah, that was a really dope show.
Yeah, that was a cracking night. Yeah, I love, when we put an IE love to anywhere outside the IE, it's always a little movie. So yeah, it's cracking.
Dang, I feel like those photos weren't even that good either. Like, and you still posted them. Like when Cam posted them, I was just like, oh shit, I don't know if he just be nice, but whatever. I got posted.
Hey, we ugly anyway. It don't even matter. So
I'm dead.
I'm posting my shit up. We gotta use this content,
right? Oh my goodness. Basically, I want to have the fans like get to know you a little better, just because I feel like people have heard of Cam Gnarly, but nobody knows who, like, I'm
a mystery.
Yeah, because you kind of are, unless people have been tapped into like knowing what you've been doing the past few years, So before the mics were turned on, he was telling me stuff about himself, and I was just like, wait, hold on, like the interview hasn't started yet.
But yeah, I'm from the Inland Empire. I'm originally born in Los Angeles. My pops lived in Venice. My mother came out here by way of Chicago. She went to Fairfax. He went to Venice. We lived out here until like the early 1990s, and I moved out to the IE where I went to like most of my schooling and high school and stuff. But I always, like I said, I have family in LA, so I'll bounce back and forth the whole time. And then I started making music and like taking it real serious. Like after school was over, like in college, and probably like around like 2010 or something like that. And I started, performing in, open mics and that kind of thing, and just, pushing my music out. And that was during like the blog era. So like I would get noticed, but it was cool, like getting people like write about it. I was in like Two Dope Boys and all that kind of stuff early on, doing shows with like Pac Div and early Kendrick and like YG and Janae and stuff like that, like doing stuff back and forth. So probably around like 2014 is when people really started like tapping into my music. When after I put like certain like significant songs, like people started listening to shit I put out, like Levitate and my GoPro stuff, and from there like people started tapping in. I was doing a lot of shows with my homie Noah James out in the IE too. So we we the type of people like, if there ain't nothing there, we build our own. So we would throw our own shows, throw our own events. I started throwing my own shows and own events in like between IE and LA for like a number of years. And then throughout that, just always putting out new music. And, over the years, my music grows and the people who be listening and following grow. And that's just how it goes.
You said you started like focusing on music after high school.
Yeah.
So what were you listening to that kind of like inspired you to like, I'm going to do music? Like
probably like a lot of like Cameron shit and like Mace and Harlem World stuff. And then I really got into like Lupe Fiasco and Kanye West when I was a teenager. And like being like my family grew up like in the church and stuff like that. So I was in the choir and stuff like that when I was really young. So
you were around music.
Yeah, I was always around music. I come from, my father's the youngest of 10. I come from a big ass family, and a lot of people in here in the family think they singers and dancers and all kinds of shit. So, I would see that. I grew up around that, like a lot of action, a lot of activity, and people just, being characters and shit. So eventually, like, I just got into it on my own. Like, I was in the back of the bus on a football team, and niggas start rapping, and,
you're like, wait, hold on. Let me do my thing.
Try to do my little, so I started, that was the first time I really started thinking about, like, damn, I gotta, like, how do I rap? Like, you know, how do I express myself through rap? And I just got into hip hop. Like, that was probably like my earliest thing that I ever got into. Like, you know, knew front to back like the hip hop history and like how shit started and did it. Like, I was like really deeply interested in that shit, and it just kind of like took over my life. Like now, you know, I wouldn't even be here or anywhere really if it wasn't for music. Like that's just how I get down.
That's crazy. I feel like because of everybody in your family, the creative juices were in you. It was just something needed to spark it, right?
Yeah, definitely. Before I got into like making music, I used to draw too. So like, and there were like a lot of people in my family who would draw too. I had aunts who were like actual cartoonists on cartoons and stuff like that. And
oh wow,
it was just dope to be able to create stuff. Like as long as I can remember, I've sat down, thought about some shit, created it, presented to somebody, and appreciated their reaction. They're like, oh, that shit hard, or that's just good.
That's
like,
dope.
And I, you know, but the way music made me feel, like creating music after listening to music and seeing music for so long, like that's probably the best feeling. Like people like genuinely be connecting to my music, and I be intentional with that shit because I'm very like positive and mindful, and like I try to take a lot of the shit that I grew up seeing and enjoying. Like I grew up listening to a lot of street shit and a lot of street music, and you know, living in San Bernardino, I seen a whole lot of different types of shit. So I be really intentional in trying to like change narratives and like really you know, it may sonically sound one way, but we're going to present it to you or give you like, you know, some shit to really think about or make some, you know, something positive in that regard. So, you know, that's like my favorite thing to do with music is kind of like really be reprogramming people from the programming that the people got, you know, like that kind of thing.
Because even your sound, it doesn't, like you can't box it in, right? I don't even know how to describe it. So how would you describe it? Because it doesn't sound, like I can't like name an artist that is like, oh, this is like Cam Gnarly or Cam Gnarly is like this.
I feel like that's what I'm trying to really create, just like my own sound, so that when people hear this, they're like, oh, like this some Cam shit. Like, and I feel like that is, you know, a very fine line because I draw inspiration from a lot of different things. So my music is like inherently gonna be unique. It don't sound like nothing, but it can rock with some other shit in this way, and you may find it in this playlist, or you may find it, you know, these type of people listen to it, and that's what I enjoy. Like this, the duality to it. So I feel like my music is just like all encompassing. Like you could play it for your mama, you could play it for your kid, you could play it with you and your girl. Like, you know, it's a little bit of something for everybody. Like that's really what it's about.
Well, I feel like you do that really well because like I said, I can't describe it, but
some positive shit.
Yeah, but it is positive. Let's talk about your project, Love Really Is. Each track finishes a sentence of the EP title.
Love Really Is. So the first track is Boundaries, you know, Love Really Is Boundaries. And that song really just like represents that. Like it's really like a flip of some Donnell Jones shit where you're just saying like, you know, I got to figure out what I got to do for me. And this is where I'm drawing a line around me, and you know, you're going to have to leave, you know, and for whatever that may be. It could be business, it could be a relationship or whatever. But, you know, within context, like that's what it's about, like creating boundaries. And then you go through like the heels, you know, and that's the second song, The Heels. Love is really the heels, like taking the time to focus on yourself and focus on your healing. And I feel like that's some shit I really did a lot of with COVID and quarantine and separating myself from like doing shows and shit. Like I really had to like put my energy or like address my energy in different ways because I do a lot of shows, like, you know, or I guess I did a lot of shows because that shit was like a year and a half ago.
but I get what you mean, But
like doing a lot of shows, like, you know, you'll make music for a show, you know, I'll make music thinking about a performative aspect to it, or even thinking about making music for consumption of, you know, for people to listen to in that moment. But when I was making this project, like this is stuff that I was just thinking about and making, and I picked these songs particularly to tell a particular story about like how sometimes you got to go through setting boundaries, and then you got to go through some healing space, and then you might find some sweet shit that you like, and then you may find somebody you fucking and you having a sexual exchange with, and you may have to have these conversations with yourself, like heart talks, and telling yourself like, yo, like it's gonna be straight. You, all you got is you. Just worry about you, and then just all that shit just wraps into like, you know, self love and romantic love, and that's really what the whole project's about. Like, you know, the journey of that, like self love, romantic love, and just some bobs and slaps in there.
Was it hard for you to kind of like dive into, because I feel like you were like vulnerable throughout the whole thing? Was it hard for you to kind of, I mean, you being an artist, you're always willing to put yourself out there, right? But this is different. Like
Yeah.
even from the concept to what you're talking about, like a lot of artists dive into that, but not as deep as you. Was that hard, or was that just like therapy for you to get that out?
It definitely was therapeutic. I feel like this project was my therapy for COVID, like what I was doing in that time period. You know, there's always like a natural like vulnerable space about being vulnerable. Like, you know, I'm saying things on this project, or you know, the way I wrote on this project is a lot different than I wrote on 333HZ or on Nirvana. But I'm happy about that. Like I want my music to express the growth of where I'm at. Like I'm not focusing on giving anybody some shit that, you know, that I feel like they want from me. You know what I'm saying? Like my intention is just to express myself and people to connect to it, so that hopefully they could do the same shit. Yeah. So it was kind of like, I wonder if niggas is gonna, but then you kind of disassociate yourself from that. Yeah. Like, I don't care what anybody's gonna think, because I know this is really good. Yeah. And I also know that it's really different, and there's something on here worth hearing. So I feel like that really, you know, made me ignore like the vulnerable space that it took to make it, because it's kind of like, you know, music got to be vulnerable sometimes. Yeah.
And you also kind of have to like step out of the box of like what do my fans want from me? Because at the end of the day, like you're constantly like shedding layers, like, you know, to show different parts of yourself.
Because I feel like what I may have offered to a fan of mine a few years ago, because I've been making music for a long time, so people who've been following me, they've watched me grow and change and come up and go down, and like in these different time spaces. So it's like, you know, I can't make you a posy project every single time. Doesn't mean my music isn't going to be inherently positive and you're going to get those key notes. But, you know, listen to something else I've said in that regard. But it's like a lesson, you know, like I'm, you know, my music and what I'm offering, it tells a story, but it's my story. So, you know, I really don't, like, there's times definitely I'm going to make a slap because I want to make a slap for the fans. But at the same time, like, this is one of those kind of projects that, you know,
I had to do for yourself.
I had to do, but I'm always doing it for myself. But, you know, at the same time, like, it's one of those projects that I was separated from, like, doing the shows and traveling and touring and so it was fun to just kind of like be chilling, and like, you know, I bought a new mic and a new laptop, and a lot of shit was just stuff I was making at the crib, and I'm really like happy with how it came out, because it's so different, but the sound is like so like it's hard to stop listening to it. Like once you start listening to it, and because that's like I kept it short in like a 17-minute. Like you could really run that shit back over and over and over again. And I really fuck with that.
I also feel like some fans need to understand that when an artist is creating something, like obviously like the fan base is kept in mind, but you're, as a fan, you're not always gonna like everything that the artist you like does. Yeah. You know, and you just have to just wait for the next one and see. You know.
Yeah, true. I feel like the next one too. I already got the next one.
Oh really? Oh
too,
God!
So like, I make a lot of music. This was like particularly what I wanted to put out passing COVID, and I feel like this is a theme I've seen too as well. Like a lot of people who are like in tune with themselves and focus on their healing. A lot of artists did put out music that had to do with love, and I just noticed that like that ripple effect, and I feel like that's just, you know, we're all paying our tides towards you know, this music that we love, and like the you know, how we express that shit. But I'm already ready to give people, like, you know, we got some summer shit coming too, so
artists are always hella prepared.
If you really working shit.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. I want to talk about your cover art a bit because it's adorable.
Thank you.
If y'all follow Cam on Twitter, you know how much he loves his plants.
I do. I'm a plant person. Yeah. For real. Before I left the house, I watered the plants.
Really? Oh, so are you one of those that gets like a plant sitter too and stuff?
I'll tell my brother to be like, yo, I'm about to be going. Like when I've been on tour or something like that, I'll tell my brother, like, I'll leave him a schedule, like, yo, this is what these plants need. Hit them with the mister and and it's really simple. But,
well, it's just, you know, taking a minute to do.
Those are my children.
Yeah. Aww. That's funny because I was really looking at the cover and I was like, this fool's really watering his plants. The cover, like I was like, he really. That's
really what it's been like. You gotta imagine, like, my point of that picture is my point of view for the last year. Like, I have a job, I work and stuff like that as well to fund what we do in here. But it's like I work remotely. I was working remotely all year. I would wake up, water my plants. Girl in the bed. Water my plant. You know what I'm saying? And it's simple as it's simple as that. Like, because that's like the most routine nature of like my personal care, like my self-love is like the first thing I do is practice my mindfulness by watering my plants, something I care about, and then drinking some water for myself.
Yeah.
That's how I start the
day.
Gotta
water yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds cliche, but that's, people do not, for people, that's why I got my water right here. Like, people really don't drink water, like, or rather are not very mindful of themselves in any kind of capacity. So I feel like having plants help me with that. You know, so that's why I keep them around.
It's also like a calming routine for you to have. Like, okay, I'm gonna get up, water my plants.
Keeps the oxygen in the room and shit like that.
Yeah,
like,
they say it like that. That it helps with your dreams too, like in all that. So
yeah, they be looking at me too. I be seeing them like, like my plants be sitting in the room, like the way that they look, you can tell like when the vibes is off in the room. Like when my vibes is off, the plants really be on some
really.
But when I'm feeling good, like them motherfuckers be
so that's crazy.
I look at it like, that's some real life connection type shit. Like, a silence, like there's life in my room. We ain't talking, but we communicating. So I feel like that shit does help me like be more at peace. Like, so that's why I put it on the cover. And the also the inspiration to the project. Like I said, over the course of 2020, like I did like a lot of like talking to my family, like checking in with family. So I found out a lot about like my ancestry and stuff through my aunts and through like my great grandparents. And something my grandmother, I found like she used to collect was these little cartoons called these little Love Is cartoons.
Oh, and, I love
that's
those.
That's the inspiration to the cover, because she used to collect these things. So she'd have pictures of us, and then she'd have these little things. I didn't even think
that. Yeah, okay, I see it now.
Yeah, so that's what inspired me to name the project. I really wanted to put her name
old as fuck, by
on
the
something. You know what that shit is?
Yeah.
People know.
My mom used to collect, like, I'm pretty sure my mom still has a box like full of them.
Yeah, honestly. Hey, people really. I had cousins that were locked up, like they would send that shit to their girlfriends, or they would send it to them, and that's something I've always grew up seeing. So when I saw that in process of like learning about my history, I was like, you know what, I want to associate my grandmother, Mama Grant, Vernice Grant, on this project with, giving her the name of the inspiration. Cool. So instead of it, it was going to be called Love Is, and I was like, no, I want this to be like my own shit. So I changed to Love Really Is, and I inserted myself, and I showed in, on the back cover too. And I will have like some hard copies and stuff coming out, but on the back cover, all the illustrations are similar to those. To the Love Is cartoons, and we just we changed the illustration, or redrew them, inserted myself, and kind of like changed them to go with the music itself. Like every single song is intentionally drawn to go with that, and I'm about to put out like these little like postcard stuff that people can get off my website that has like all the all the illustrations for each song. It's gonna have the info on it and stuff. Like I got a whole bunch of little ideas for it, but that's what it's inspired by. But I appreciate that. I feel like a lot of people, it's that's the first thing you got to offer to people, especially the way that we present music. Like they got to see it, and if they see it and they align themselves with it in that moment, like you got them. That's 50% right there. Then they gonna listen, and they gotta watch that shit while they listening. Like I've listened to shit, and I had to look at it, and I'm like, I don't know if I don't like how it looks. Like I like how it sounds, but this cover art is trash. Yeah, but it's like,
bro, I don't think people realize how important like the visual is to everything. Like
it can be. You can't. I just feel like I'm a detail oriented person. Like so, everything. I like to have things mean something so that I can talk about it and people can understand why I chose these things. But I can't be like too passe or too passive with it. But I feel like that's something that people attach themselves to when they do listen to my music, because I'm really intentional with my cover arts and all that shit. Like I really care about the packaging and the way it looks. I appreciate like that level of detail. So shout out to Tita, who did the illustration. She drew the illustrations for me. My homie Skywalker Mike, like we did like the designs, and homie Fox from Instagram. Like I had posted saying like I was gonna do this, and then a homie hit me up and he was like, hey, I want to help you on this cover. And then like we came together like somebody I never even met before.
Yeah,
like, that's
it's crazy that like people that you've never met before are always, most of the time, are always willing to be like, yo, let me help you out. Like, and it's just like, what the fuck? Like,
because you can respect somebody who like really coming through, trying to execute. Like, I feel like I have a history of execution. Like, whether you're close to it or apart from it, you gonna know. Like, Cam always dropping some music, always doing some shows. So it's dope to see people who just see me doing shit and they just want to tap in, like, I want to help you do this. Like, because a lot of this shit is like a community thing, like really off the strength. Like, I've been able to say I've been blessed through making music, or just the act of making music, writing music, or being an artist, to have some of them like the most crazy experiences and just be there.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Art and music bring people together, right?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
For real.
So obviously, like the EP is like a soulful journey, not as in like sound wise, kind of, but like it's more like you know, going through your emotions and stuff. Was the beat selection hard because you like, because sound is everything, right? Like that's why they use it in movies and stuff. It makes you feel things more and it adds more emphasis. So was that difficult for you to be like, okay, this is what I want this to sound like? Or how did you go about that?
Well, I feel like a lot of the beats that I have in there were not chosen all at the same exact time.
Okay.
It was really like taking different parts and different pieces and then putting them together and seeing how they could work. So I feel like it's kind of like say I'm painting a picture, but I don't know what I'm painting. That's really what it's like. Like I'm painting a picture, don't know what I'm painting. I just paint a little bit here and a little bit here and a little bit there, and I just take a step back and I'm like, damn, this whole thing could be love really is. And then and then the parts I kind of like, then we kind of build around that.
Yeah.
And sonically, me and my homie, my engineer, A Brook and Audio King, we went through every single song and kind of crafted it all to blend together, but also keep each distinctive sound so that it is like in itself a sentence or an expression on its own. So it is kind of difficult doing it like that. Sometimes I work with just one producer and it's easy in that regard. But like I said, we had all year just fucking kicking in and making music. So.
It was like a puzzle piece, right? And then, so you had all year to kind of like, okay, I know I got that part done. I got that part
and there's certain stuff that didn't, things that didn't make it, like that I made in the time period or in the process of those sessions. But, those are going to be on the next year. Like I really, we ain't wasting nothing.
Yeah, the good thing about that is that you could always just save it for later. Like it's not going to expire.
I got a lot of songs with some homies that like shout out to my homie M16, bro got a song that we did in like 2015. I still be on this head bro, put that shit out, and he'd be like, nah. And I appreciate that shit though too, because it is like that. Like sometimes you want to hold on to something, like I'm sure Prince and DMX and everybody got songs that never came out, and that those be the gems like after it's over. But we make a lot of stuff. Like it's always just constant creation. Yeah.
My favorite track on the EP is Sweet. I don't know why. I just always find myself going back to that song. I know when artists put together a project, like you're supposed to listen to it in order. I feel like especially your projects are like that, but I always start it off right there.
No, I feel like what's crazy about this is because it's such a short listen, like that's what prompted me to not put out a single, because I was like, you know what? Well, because what's funny is Sweet was going to be the single.
Okay.
So like that's going to be the next visual. Like shout out to me and Pretty Papes and director Vic, who did my Too Much video. And the Top Notch video, the video for that's gonna drop in like a couple of weeks. Okay. But Sweet is like my favorite, but I really want to leave it up to people. Yeah. Because it's like 6 joints. I want to leave it up to people to choose, what's your favorite track. And it's dope because every song is getting like, yo, I fucking love Hills, or I love Boundaries. Like I feel that I'm about to leave my girl over that shit right now. Like it's funny. It's funny hearing the different stuff that people say. The homie told me he was listening to Sweet for his girl, and she was just like, wow, like I want you to tell me that you gonna hold space for me. And so it's fun. It's dope that all these little intricate parts are standing out. But Sweet is definitely like my favorite too, because it's just it was almost called Honey Bun, but it didn't work within the concept because but when me and Pretty Pace made that joint, it was almost called Honey Bun for like over the summer. But it's just like some sweet shit, you kind of just singing to your lady off key type shit, like
it's so cute.
Like I want to love you always and all the ways type. So I like that one.
I was like, oh, and then like I was like, I got over it after a little bit. I was just like, it's just a song.
I mean, it is. But I feel like that's the story itself, and it tells that story too, because it'll go from Sweet, and you're listening to Sweet, and you're listening to like, us like serenade these girls and talking about like, yo, I love you, I'm trying to love on you type shit, and then you go to Exchange, the next song, and it's really like, look, you know what you came for, I know what you over here for type shit, and then even like Zaya at the end of the song, like, after it's over, you don't own it, nigga. Like, so it's like what you say, like, okay, it's just a song. And that's what love be like. Like eventually you find the person you want to do all of that shit with, but it really be like, I could be sweet with this nigga, but I don't know if I want to fuck with this nigga. Or vice versa. Like, I can fuck with this nigga, but I can't be sweet with this person. Like, so it is. I'll find myself listening to Sweet a lot because it's such a boppy type vibe, but then other times I'm in the mood for Boundaries.
Where it's just like him.
For real. Yeah, but Sweet's definitely one of my favorites. Shout out Pretty Papes.
Oh man, well I can't wait for that visual now because I know it's gonna be some like.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be some sweet shit.
Yeah,
all puns intended. Yeah.
Oh, dad, you're gonna be like a candy store or what?
Awesome. I'm just kidding. Not a candy store, but hey,
just kidding. No.
The sugar is.
I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to ruin it. It's fine. So, let's speak on your Rad Habits Holiday podcast. So, where'd you guys get that name from? Because that's like what?
That's like such a yeah. I made Rad Habits back in 2014, like back when I first started throwing my own shows.
Okay.
So I used to do shows with Ham on Everything back in like 2015, 2014 with the homies. I had a collective called Curly Fam. And at the time, I wanted to, take what I was experiencing when I was doing shows out in LA and these warehouse parties that were starting at like 10 o'clock at night and not ending until like 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
I wanted to do that in San Bernardino, especially because in San Bernardino at that time, we're bankrupt right now, but we had just went bankrupt back then, so they cut the police force in half. So niggas was, there was parties in advance and the cops wasn't showing up because there wasn't a lot of police at the time. So Rad Habits Holiday came because I just kind of put together off the name, like Gnarly, Rad. So I was just like, I'm gonna throw this event called Rad Habits because at the time we were doing some bad shit. We about to do some rad shit. So we had Rad Habits, and then we added the holiday later because like one of the events we threw, like somebody was like, "Man, I look at this shit like it's a fucking holiday. Like this is my, he took off work. He said he uses holiday time for some shit for this.
I'm dead. So
that's how we ended up calling it Rad Habits Holiday because every time we throw this shit, it's like a fucking holiday.
Yeah.
So and it's been going on since 2014. It started off as like warehouse parties in San Bernardino. Then I was throwing some events, like doing collab events with like Brick to Your Face, booking artists like what's that guy's name? Made in Tokyo and back when 24 Hours was like Royce Rizzy and stuff like that. And then I had this other series that we threw, something called Manifestival, and we booked different artists and singers, and we were throwing it at Los Globos in like 2015, 2016, from like 2015 to 2017. And then from there, I turned it into like an Instagram space where we would just post people's music, like all the artists that we would book, all the artists that we were checking on, and it was started by me, but it's not just ran by me. Like it's a collective of people who care about putting on for different IE artists and LA artists, and just artists that we meet along the way. Places that we tour and stuff like that. It's like keeping it all in one place, like a place that we can all just put out the rad shit that we doing in the streets. So and then from there, lately it's turned into a podcast because right before. Like the plan was before COVID, before everything went weird, Rad Habits was throwing these events called Your Welcomes. So I threw one at a Delicious Pizza in LA, and we had like Nikki D's.
Remember that. Remember? Okay.
So we had like Nikki D's on the first one, and that's really how we linked up too, to have him on the project too. Like we just weaved together. Yeah. But we had that one with Nikki D's, like Phantom Threat and some other artists. And then the second one we did the You're Invited or the You're Welcome or You're Invited, and that had like Plane and Sham when they were doing the 110. Yeah. The homie Noah James, the homie what's his name? Exhibit Son was on there. And then that we did, so the intention was to do one every single month for the entire 2020. Like that's how it was gonna go down. And then that shit went down. So we had also started a podcast at that same time to, pretty much talk about the stuff that's going on, within our communities and, especially with everything that was going on with like George Floyd and stuff like that. Yeah. I want to be as intentional as I could with the radical shit that we were doing. Yeah. And in a space where we could talk about radical politics, or a place where we could talk about, like the way like our opinions on what we're seeing in the communities and in the culture. And then from there, we're also going to like have a space to magnify IE artists and the people we're going to book. So, but now it just turned into a space where we just like shoot the shit and like talk about the stuff that, that we've been doing. Cause as we get back into throwing shows, we will like start having artists on so and so and so forth. But it's just like homies that I started the collective with, like my homie, the people I was in the music collective with, those are all my co-hosts. So.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Like my cousin and shit like that. It's like some family shit. But yeah.
I just want to say you're one of the perfect examples of like, if a door doesn't open, you just do it yourself.
Basically.
Cause like, I mean, we're both examples of that. Cause it's just like, hey, fuck it. Like,
it really is like, my whole thing is like, if it's not there for you, you got to create it yourself, like create your own. And I would hear that shit from, I would do shows with Noah James and the IE back at the Vibe and stuff like that. And if like that was one of the main spots that people would go to do shows in the IE in Riverside. And from there, instead of waiting in line to get a show where everybody's trying to do a show, throw your own fucking show.
Yeah.
And then from there, if you like podcasts and you want, you got something to say outside of what you have, outside of what I have to say musically, I'll start a podcast. Because there's more ways to diversify your fan base. Yeah. Outside of just creating music. Music is the medium in which all this shit floats on, but it don't got to be my music only. It could be my homie's music. It could be, my man's music, somebody I'm a fan of and stuff like that. Like I want to create a space to always uplift other artists the way people have done for me. Like that's just my way to pay forward or pay it backwards or whatever.
And everybody's ears are different. So like what you're listening to, somebody else might not be listening to. So you're able to put people on and stuff. And, I really like that. I like that mindset because I always feel like when people DM me and they're like, oh, I want to start a podcast or how did you start writing? I'm just like, oh, like, let me, like, I look at all my DM requests like on Instagram and stuff. Yeah. So I'm just like, okay, let me help this person because when I was like back in the day on MySpace, like, DMing like radio DJs that I wanted to work with, like I never got a response, and like I understand why, but I remember those days
sending the emails, and so the I'm inquiries and shit like that. Nobody hit you back, like
and so like if I have the time and I have the resources, like yo, I'm gonna help you out because nobody was able to do that for me, and like it's just passing on, like
because the younger artists, like it's different now, like and I feel like that's just being aged in music and like being around music for a long time, like the industry and the culture around music, how people consume music and listen to it is different. Yeah. So, for me, when I got younger artists hitting me up and when I'm doing a whole lot of shows and shit, because I do a lot of shows like all throughout the year. That's really how I get like a lot of my bread and butter, as also in the sense of like creating new fans. Like I'm always in people's faces. Like there's no way you're not going to see my name somewhere and shit like that. So it works in that way. So when people are asking me like, how do I do that? How do I do that? Like it really is as simple as like, sometimes you got to do it yourself, bro, or just hit these people up the same way you hit me up. But it does show people like, you don't got to just do one thing. Like, and I feel like that's, it is a lot of, you got to wear a lot of hats sometimes. But you also got to be able to delegate to other people. Cause like you said, like what I'm listening to and what I like may not be what someone else is listening to, but that don't mean that shit don't slap and it's not good and it needs to be highlighted the same way, for each one teach one and everybody put each other on type shit.
Yeah, exactly.
That's some IE shit. I be seeing people on Twitter be saying like, oh, like when a nigga's being extra nice or like the love shit, that's some IE shit type shit, but that's really what it is. Like, niggas be putting on for each other.
Yeah.
Real.
It's not a bad thing. Like,
No, I fuck with that shit.
So,
IE in LA is not that different.
I mean, as much as Twitter likes to say, let's not talk about that.
Twitter is not the whole world. Like, I be seeing a lot of y'all niggas in IE, so there's a lot of, and there's a whole lot of IE niggas who are in LA talking about I'm from LA, and nobody's saying nothing. We just let y'all be. But I know where you from, bro. I know what school you went to.
I'm weak. Hey, yearbooks do not lie.
Yeah, for real, bro. Like, how you gonna? You went to what? What? I ain't gonna say nothing, but it's just, I feel like more people just got to build those bridges because it is comical to watch people be like praising some LA artists, knowing a lot of people be like, that nigga's from IE, or vice versa, like seeing what the stuff with like a Hit Boy and like somebody in the IE that we champion, like, he's gone across the map, like, and he takes IE everywhere. Like, that's the way people just got to be like, where were you from? Take that shit everywhere. Like, Hit Boy's not in LA trying to pretend like he's from IE. He's repping IE. Like, so that's really the best way to do it for me. Like I said, I'm from LA originally. I was born out here, and I got family out here. First fight I ever caught was in LA, but nonetheless, like, where I rest my head is where I'm gonna rep, and I'm gonna wear that wherever I'm at. Like, that's the best way to do it. Have pride in that shit.
The pros and cons of social media.
Yes. Yeah, we can talk about that shit all day.
That's a whole different podcast.
For real, come to my podcast. We'll chop it up.
I would gladly, if you want me on there, I will gladly go.
Definitely. Like, pull up. Our studio's over in, shout out to Productive Culture. Our studio's over there in Glendora. It's not too far.
Okay.
Link up.
All right. It was going to be a wild one.
Yeah, for real.
Let's talk about your merch.
So my merch that I have going right now is from my 2020 album, 3338Z. That project features Triz, Airplane James, my homie Waju, Richard Wright, and just production from the homie Audio King too. He produced for like OT Genesis, and he did Bay, and that new joint too, that one that he's I'm not your rich. I'm really rich. Oh yeah, what's that shit?
Oh, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
The homie Audio King did that shit. But yeah, the like the info behind that project was the Healers Club, like because 333 HZ is 333 hertz, and that's like a healing frequency. Like you can.
I was gonna ask you, like, are you into like numerology and all that stuff, or is it just that?
Like, I know about it. Like I know about it because I've been around a lot of people who've taught me about it, but like I don't like actively study it all the time. But I know what I know, and what I do know about like what I've studied about like sound and different frequencies in music. Different frequencies can convey different things. Like we know that, and if you can understand that within music theory, you can theoretically like take a sound like 333 hertz, which is known as a healing frequency, like has a healing effect on the brain and the mind. And I put that into my music, into that project. So as a part of that, I created this thing called the Healers Club. And it was something that I was really like intentionally doing just because at the time with 2020, like I wanted people to focus on their healing. Even if it was just something to see something that said healers or healing, like that's all it really took. So I incorporated that into the brand, and we made shirts and hoodies and masks, and it's just dope to see people like really tap in with my merchandise and really buying it from all over the place, London and fucking Africa and shit. Is tight.
That's tight.
Yeah.
When you came out with that project, I was like, okay, he's either like really into numerology, and I was like, but also I know that the HC stands for hurt. So I was just like, I wonder how many people are gonna catch on to that. And so that was like really dope.
And with that project too, it was like three's a big number in my life. My name starts with a C, third letter of the alphabet. My mother had 3 children. We all got the same initials. So that's 3 C's: Cameron, Christian, Caden. Okay. So shout out to my brothers and shout out to my mother. And and then like too, like there's this like little number shit within my family. Like my brother, my mother, and myself, we're all born on the 12th, which is number divisible by 3. And so it's all these little weird really shit. My birthday is 9/12, which is all derivatives of 3. So there's all these little weird things and little synchronicities I was seeing at the time that led me to call the project 333. So it was going to be called 333, but then when I was working on it with Brooke, he was like, yo, I've been putting all your vocals in the 333 hertz space. And I was like, okay. Hey, matter of fact, that's what we're going to call the project. So that's really, it got 3 different meanings because 333 also, if you're into numerology and angel numbers, that shit means balance in mind, body, and spirit. So the whole project is a flip on 3 different things in 3 different ways, and the music just kind of talks about that.
Wow, that's dope. You really
some slaps
are
on
like
there too. Run it up on that shit too.
You're really a healer all the way around.
It's a natural thing. I feel like that's just my role in life in general. Like I try to intentionally heal myself all the time. Like I'm focused all the time on my personal wellness and making sure that I'm straight. So everything that is from me can be straight. So I'm not like confused in my decision making or anything like that, because I've put myself in a space to spearhead some shit, and I'm I play my position. So but within that I got to take care of myself, or I'll be useless to everybody that I'm of use to. So it's like in that regard, it is expressed through everything that I do, and that shit started when I first started making music, and it just kind of gets expressed through that. If you listen back to like my old stuff, it wasn't always about like healing and shit like that. It was probably about like some party shit or some lit shit or some drug shit or
you grow, it's growth.
Exactly. So as I grow as a man, my music's gonna represent all of those things. And I feel like now, even with the new stuff that's coming in this project, like it's really easy now for me to write something that is just an expression of myself, because niggas have really lived like a whole life and it's still really, intentional and active in my life. So in that regard, it's always going to be like some healing shit, because that's my whole like mission statement. Like I try to write about myself in a self-aware way, so it'll boost self-awareness, and self-awareness only boosts healing because you're gonna pay attention to yourself more. Exactly. And it's all like there's a science to it. You feel me? On some Wu-Tang shit, like there's a science to it. Yeah. And
you never know, like whose mind you're sparking to, like, okay, maybe I do need to look into this for myself.
And it really like, be that like it. I don't know who I'm connecting with in that way, because I don't really worry about it. So, but the energy that I be getting from what I do and how I do it in this project and stuff. And prior projects, especially with 333, especially with Nirvana, and the energy before that, like I have to do this shit, like because like I'm clearly doing some shit for people, and I'm like, all right, well, let me play my role, like let me give back. That's really all it is. It's all energy. Yeah. And
they say all the good energy you put out comes back to you tenfold. So and you're not doing it with that intention. You're just doing it with with pure intention. So if anything,
definitely.
it's
I was just
better.
watching some. I think it was a Drink Champs with DMX, RP DMX, and when he was talking about how like to give to somebody and like put it onto display is selfish, because it's almost like you already know, like if you give to someone, you're gonna get given back. Like that's just the natural way of things. Like it's very rare that you give to people and they don't give back, because you just gave the example of giving. Exactly. So anything else beyond that is selfishness, because you already know what it is. So I feel like that's how I try to maneuver through music, like in a way that, and it also helps me to not worry about it too much. Like I don't really think about, you know, if I'm doing right by people in that kind of way, because I give, like I'm giving to people. I'm naturally giving of information, resources, whatever. Like, you know, shit, niggas gonna be hitting you up for this shit after this. Like, yo, I'm trying to do an interview, like, you know, because of that. Like, that's the energy, because it is like you just kind of pay that shit forward. So I feel like I said, I wouldn't even be here living in the form of fashion that I am, so free and really doing well, if it wasn't for like, you know, the things that I've given through music. So I give back to music by continuing to make music. Like that's
dope. Yeah, and the universe will continue to reward you.
For real. I believe it. That's how we met. You feel me? Like,
exactly. Hey, you know,
shit, like that's, and I that's kind of like how you build your real family outside of your family. You know, like people that you can depend on. I know, like when I'm making some music, I can hit you up and be like, yo, I made a new project, and we go through that space, because you know these are the people that you know. Like these are real creatives. Like I know for a fact that what you do here is gonna grow and gonna blossom, because that's just what you do. You give to people, people gonna give back, and as you grow, so will the people around you. And just, you know, that's how it goes. People got to understand that, though. I feel like that's something that we know, but people outside of it don't know it like that, and they not even look at it like it's favoritism or like it's weird shit, and it's really not that. It's just it's really just a trust of execution from people. Like, you know, they told me an idea, they followed through. A lot of people don't follow through, and they want shit, you know.
Exactly.
They want to eat the food, don't want to do the dishes type. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to understand. Like
that's a whole different podcast too.
I'm getting too real. Man, I smoke frosted down. You know, my bad, y'all.
No, you good. It's just like, man, it's just a lot. It's a lot to go over. You know. Yeah, definitely. Is there anything else you want to touch on before we get out of here?
Man, just want to say thank you for having me on here.
No problem.
Shout out to the whole IE. Shout out to the whole LA. All the family in between. We really building the bridges out here, and you know, doing stuff like this helps that. Listen to Love Really Is streaming on everything. You want to support the brand, go to camgnarly.com, buy a t-shirt, buy some merch. Hard copies are coming onto the project, or hard copies are coming to the website.
Okay. I knew what you meant. That's why I agreed. I was like,
just run it up, man. Stay positive out there. Focus on yourself and your healing. Stay in balance.
Thank you for pulling up. I really appreciate it. It's been a long time coming, you know.
I know. Honestly,
I'm glad you were patient.
I would have been. You already know if 2020 didn't go how 2020 went. You already know we would have been linked up, and that's just what it's going to be. Things are opening back up.
Honestly, we weren't even supposed to be like in this building, but you know what? We're here, so you know.
We're here.
But make sure you guys follow Cam Gnarly on all social media platforms. I'm gonna leave all the links to his projects and DSPs below.
Run it up. Run my shit up. Put my shit on repeat. Throw that shit on a loop.
Tap back in. Let us know which ones you like.
For real, let me know what your favorite is. I'm very accessible. Hit me on any social media, Instagram, CAMGNAR, Twitter, Cam Gnarly. Just
and tap into his podcast, especially when I'm gonna be the special guest. You know,
it's gonna come. Yeah, we gonna talk. I want to know all the ins and outs of the bullshit.
No.
For real.
Man, I'm gonna have to make up fake names and everything.
For real. We'll blow your face out and we'll put the distortion on.
Right.
Especially on my pod too, we do it like it's kind of like a TV show, like on the YouTube shit, like it's all green screen.
Oh yeah, you've seen it.
What we talk about pops up, and we have it. You know, it's gonna get more funny. It's gonna get more funny in a minute.
Oh man.
But yeah, tap in. Rad Habits Podcast, Cam Gnarly. Get in there.
Make sure you follow us on all social media platforms, and thank you guys for tuning in. We out.
Peace.